We shouldn't be trusting them at all.
Because these people do not have your kid's best interest at heart. They don't. What do they have? What are they interested in? Their woke ideology, their woke agenda. And today, Bob Ferguson proved that he is no moderate. He is a far left radical. He signed House Bill 1296 into law, effectively dismantling key provisions of Initiative 2081, a voter-backed parental rights initiative supported by over 454,000 Washingtonians. We went out there on Sundays. We went out there all these days to gather signatures for this initiative to make sure that we could get this thing on the ballot. And what did Democrats do? They passed it in the House rather than letting it go to the ballot because they knew that if it went to the ballot, people would vote down their other insanity. And they knew they could change it later, and that's exactly what they did. So they undid the will of the voters. Of the 454,000 of you was undone by a few dozen people in the Washington state legislature because they think they know what's better for your kids than you do. House Bill 1296, sponsored and passed by the Democratic majority in the legislature, revises the Parental Bill of Rights measure that was enacted with bipartisan support just 1 year ago. The original initiative outlined 15 rights for parents of public school students, including the right to be notified of academic, medical, safety, and law enforcement matters involving their children, right to access educational and medical records. Now, critics say the new legislation guts the core of Initiative 2081. Among the most controversial changes are schools can delay parents from receiving information about their students and entirely removes access for parents receiving medical and mental health records. Why is that? They don't want to acknowledge that all this trans insanity is a fad in some cases and in some cases is a mental problem. There is not a single study, not a single legitimate study out there that says that if you trans anybody, their mental health problems get better. In fact, it shows the complete opposite. So who are you doing this for? For a radical ideology. That's all. The bill removes the requirement to notify parents when their child receives medical services from government employees in school. My kids, if they give that kid an aspirin, they got to call me first. It allows government employees up to 2 days to notify parents if their child was the victim of a crime or sexual assault in school, so they can get their ducks in a row before they tell you what happened to your kid because of their groomer teachers, because they had a pedophile in the classroom. Not like we haven't had a problem with that. Mike, how many have we had in the last, 5 months? Just here in Washington, 2 dozen, 3 dozen that we know about?
I'm out of fingers to count.
Exactly.
Because, I was doing the math, and I'm like, no more. I'm going to need more hands.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. The bill creates significant legal and bureaucratic hurdles for parents seeking to hold schools accountable when rights under I-2081 are violated. The Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction is granted expanded authority to penalize school districts that fail to comply with his directives. So what that means is he can threaten to take away funding from a school district, then turn around and complain that Donald Trump is threatening his funding for not complying with federal law. It means that the La Center School District, which says, you know what, we're going to let the kid's gender be between the parents and the kid, that now that's wrong and Chris Rakedahl can go after you. The bill passed along party lines with every Republican legislature voting against it. Representative Travis Couture denounced the measure as a slap in the face to democracy and criticized Democrats for overturning a measure they had previously supported. By the way, 2 themes today. Democrats say they're all about democracy. Well, they undid it over this legislative cycle. There's that. They also keep saying Washington's so unaffordable, and they're passing the largest tax increase, and Bob Ferguson signing that one today. Travis Couture added, we have seen a stunning amount of sexual misconduct, sexual assaults by educators in our schools in just the last year. He proposed an amendment that would have required immediate parental notification if a student was sexually abused by a school employee, an amendment Democrats voted down. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. Those of you who go, well, thank God my kid is in a charter school or my kid's in a private school. Yeah, your kid's not safe. You know why? I have gotten several schools accredited. The accreditation process is usually based on the state standards. And in fact, I know multiple religious private schools that have switched to other accreditation agencies because the ones here have such insane requirements. In fact, there's a school I know locally that I emailed the principal because I'm still on the email list for having been accredited by these guys and having gone through the process when they sent their new woke insanity for get credits. And it's not you have to teach this much math and these many kids need to graduate and they need this many hours of phys ed. That's not what it was. It was all their woke requirements, the stuff they have to teach. The only ones sitting pretty right now are the homeschooled parents going, ha ha, we were right the whole time. We were right the whole time. If you think this isn't your fight, it is. Now, homeschooled parents, you're going to say, yeah, we're fine. They can't make us do that. Yeah, they can, because you know there's certain requirements you have to do through the schools. You know that better than I do. You know that. And they will make this stuff requirements so they can get a little piece of your kid any way they can. This isn't a Democrat versus Republican issue. This is sane versus insane. Bob Ferguson is never allowed to say ever again without you people calling him out for it every single time, threat to democracy, threat to democracy, threat to democracy. He literally undid the will of the voters. His entire party here in Washington undid the will of the voters. And he needs to pay for that at the ballot box. Needs to pay for it at the ballot box. And you go, Ari, we can't win here. Yes, we can. Would you like to know how? The Democrats have told you how we can win here. They didn't want this on the ballot. Why didn't they want this on the ballot? Because they know they're vulnerable on it. There was polling done on this. They know they're vulnerable on this because moderate Democrats will not support this insanity. They just won't. So we have to do this all over again. We have to go through Let's Go Washington, and they're already doing what they got to do. In fact, Brian Haywood's going to be on the show at 4 o'clock today. We're going to talk to him about this. We're going to have to do this all over again. And my friends, I'm putting a challenge out to you. We got 454,000 signatures last time. 454,000. I will be out there every weekend if I have to. I want 1 million signatures. I want to double it. And Mike knows me. I'm a very competitive guy, especially against myself. So if we got 454,000 signatures last time, and that was a group effort, I'm not going to take full credit for that at all. But I want 1 million signatures this time to send a mandate to them. A mandate to them. You messed with the wrong people. You messed with our kids. You didn't mess with us. You messed with our kids. All the mama bears, all the papa bears, all the mama grandmas and grandparent bears, all of them. Everybody's going to have to work super hard for this. This is the fight. And I know a lot of people say it's the border or it's Medicare, it's Medicaid, it's Social Security, it's whatever. The fight is for our kids. I saw a survey, and I dismissed it. And then I saw another group did the same study, and it said the same things. And I'm like, it's only 2 surveys. And now I'm seeing it in every survey. So Israel, America, enjoy vast approval, 70-something% in this country, something like that. The fight against terrorism, the fight against Hamas. Do you know that now with the 18 to 24-year-olds, the majority of them think that Israel's the bad guy and Hamas are the good guys? That's what generations of brainwashing does to our youth, where it's commonly accepted. The terrorists who raped, tortured, and killed and kidnapped 1,200 people, took another 250 hostage, that they're the good guys. That's what they're teaching in public schools today. That's what they're teaching in universities today. And those kids grow up to be the leaders of tomorrow. My son is finishing college this year. Guess what he was studying? Government. Guess where he's going to work? In government. That's something he's into. Those kids become the leaders of tomorrow. Those kids who are in law school right now, they're going to be the ACLU lawyers. They're going to be the ones fighting whoever the Republican is that's in office, that's trying to protect parental rights or trying to keep our border secure. They're going to be the ones fighting those cases. They're going to be the next generation of Turd Fergusons and Nick Browns and Jay Insleys and Tim Walz's and AOC and Bernie Sanders. That's who these kids are going to be. Why do you see AOC out there all the time? Because the kids like her. Why do you see Bernie Sanders out there? Because the kids like him. Why the hell do they like either one of them? Every kid wants to be rich. They want to be rich for the least amount of work. They all want to be influencers, right? Yeah, there's one little problem. If you explain to these kids what socialism actually is, they'll be like, wait, you mean I have to give up all my stuff so everybody can be equal? No, I want my Lambo. I want to have my biggest streaming audience. All right, kids, let me put this in a term you understand. Let's say you have 1 million followers on Instagram. Let's do socialism for Instagram. Okay, so what do I have? 2,000 followers on Instagram? I don't really use Instagram that much. So I've got 3,000, 4,000 followers on Instagram. Ari Hoffman official. Help me out. You can go on over there and do it. Okay, person with 1 million. Let's do fairness. I've only got a few thousand followers on Instagram. I need half of yours right now. I need half of your followers. That's equality. That's equity. Give me that, right? That's socialism with social media. Maybe now some of you understand the point. But here's the thing, guys. This gutting of the parental rights, this not informing parents if something has happened to their kid on the school's campus by a teacher, it got national attention. Ted Cruz called it utterly insane. Donald Trump wrote on Truth Social, Washington State Democrats voted not to inform parents if a child is sexually abused by school employees. Billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk also shared the news. You guys, this is the kind of thing which makes us a national laughing stock. But also, it's something else. Other states see this, and they say, we could do what Washington did. You know that bail reform law in New York? That's a complete disaster. You know where they got that from? Here in Washington. Our bad policies spread. Stupidity spreads nationwide. That bail reform was citing fraudulent numbers out of Seattle's program, where we just release prolific offenders. How'd that work out for everybody, huh? How'd that work out? Forget if they're illegal immigrants or not. How'd that work out for anybody? That's what the Democrats want. This is about virtue signaling. And here's something else. They're counting on the average Washingtonian not knowing about this. They're counting on ignorance. They're counting on stupid. And thanks to them, most of the kids in public schools around here are stupid. When 2/3 of them aren't at math level, reading level, writing level, science level, any level. But they're counting on most people not being involved. Most people not knowing what's going on. Because if they did know what was going on, they'd vote these guys out in a hot second. And a lot of you go, oh, it's rigged, it's rigged. No, my friends. This is the issue. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done what they did, passed it, so they can mess with it later. Bob Ferguson is a far-left radical. We said so at the time. We said so at the time when he first announced that he tried to be a moderate so bad. This entire session has shown, no matter how many times he says, oh, I'm looking for like 4 billion, whatever it is in budget cuts. He was with them hook, line, and sinker. He was just trying to be the good cop so he can run for higher office one day on the stupidity of Washingtonians who might think he's a moderate. A guy who takes away parental rights is not a moderate. A guy who takes away parental rights is a radical. A guy who decides he knows what's better for your kids than you. Imagine if I walk up to your kid, and let's say you're a Democrat, and I walk up to your kid and I go, hey, child, your parents are stupid. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. You know what? Come with me. You know what? Come over here in my big white van. Come to my big white van with me, child. I have candy for you. It's literally what the Democrats are doing. It's what the Democrats are doing. It's horrifying that they think this is okay. And the only way they're going to learn it's not okay is if we show them it's not okay. So when those initiatives are ready for signature, we're going to be working doubly hard this time. Triple the amount of effort. Quadruple the amount of effort. And I want you with me. I want to know if you're going to help. I want to know if you're going to help, if this is it. Whether you have kids, whether you don't have kids. You know when I started caring about Second Amendment rights? When I needed them. So you know what? Those of you who are on the younger side and may not even have kids yet. You got to realize that this is the generation that's going to be taking care of you when you're older. This generation. These kids. They're going to be the ones running the country. They're going to be the ones running the state. They're going to be the ones running the county, running the city. They're going to be taking care of you, and they're morons. And that was by design. Keep them dumb. What do we say about mushrooms? Feed them something and keep them in the dark. That's what they are counting on. They are counting on your kids dumb. This is by design. They want them dumb. They want them like the people in Idiocracy, easier to control that way. And they don't want you involved because they know you would put an end to this stupidity. They know that. I want to know what you think about this. I want to know what you think about Bob Ferguson taking away your parental rights. I want to know if this is the final straw for you. And if this isn't the final straw for you, what is? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, more insanity to discuss. On the lighter side, there's another man in tree. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you haven't lived here very long. But yeah, it's happening in downtown right now, and we're going to catch you up when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. If you live in Seattle, you know what a disaster the roads have become, not just because of the deferred maintenance and the potholes, but also because of the fact of they've put speed bumps literally everywhere. Everywhere for no reason. It's either speed bumps or bike lanes wherever you go. My commute sucks now, and I love to drive. I really do. I love driving in my cars. I talk about my Dodge Charger all the time. I talk about the Jeep Wagoneer EV that my friends over at Renton Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram gave me. I love driving these things. I really, really do. But it sucks to drive in this city. You know, I find myself driving the Wagoneer more often because it goes right over those speed bumps. Takes them like a champ, no problem. Charger, different problem. But yeah, takes them like a champ, and I can just hit the gas through them. What are they trying to do? Get you out of your cars. They're not trying to slow you down. They're trying to get you out of your cars. They have this whole idea for Vision Zero. Vision Zero, where nobody's going to die in traffic accidents or pedestrians. Well, the only way you do that is if you don't have traffic anymore. That's it. They're trying to get you out of your cars, and they're trying to get you onto mass transit. Problem is, not everybody can do that. Here we go. Let's do this for the left for a second. You know who can't always take mass transit? Disabled people. Depends on the disability you have. You can't take mass transit, and mass transit doesn't go everywhere. And you like to think to yourself, well, they have the handicap-accessible vehicles. Doesn't work for everybody depending on your disability. It just doesn't. What about delivery? What about people who drive for a living? What about workmen, workers? What about any of that? Yeah, no, makes no sense. Why would I take mass transit here when it's double the amount of time it takes me to get here when I drive? So I can spend time on the light rail with the psychos that ride the light rail around here? No, thank you. I'd prefer not to inhale meth while riding a train. I'd prefer not to get contaminated by fentanyl while riding mass transit around here. Sorry, guys. You spent a lot of money on something that's dumb because it doesn't go anywhere, and you tried to make it work with the city, and it just don't work. But what they're doing now, Ferguson signed another bill. It allows Washington cities to designate certain streets as shared streets where pedestrians, bicyclists, and vehicles share the same space. Oh, gee, I see this working out great. So you want pedestrians, bicycles, and cars all on the same place. You know what? Let's put bike trails on the highway, and I don't mean behind a barrier. Let's put them in the right lane. Maybe we'll put those little stick thingies in the street. Let's do that. That'll work out. Pedestrian and bike lane right there on I-5. That'll work out great, right? Putting them all together. Do you know why people get hit by vehicles? Because you idiots put the bike lanes in the streets. You know, I go over to like Factoria. I go to Issaquah. They got these beautiful bike lanes. I would love to go out there one time and ride them because they're not in the middle of the stupid street. Now, Ferguson signed a bill where now they can lower the speed limit to 10 miles an hour. When they have these signs that say 20 is plenty, yeah, now imagine 10 miles an hour. You know that idiot you get stuck behind who you know is going the 20 max or whatever it is in Seattle these days? And you're like, well, crud, he's following the speed limit. I just want to go 30. 20 is not plenty. And you put these things right there. You want to know why people are dying in traffic accidents? Because everybody's trying to get somewhere faster because they made the place so inaccessible with the bike lanes and with the bus lanes and everything else. But on top of that, you don't have any cops. You defunded the cops. Who's going to enforce your 10 miles an hour? Oh, we'll put traffic cameras everywhere. Who's going to enforce this? Nobody. You don't have the police officers to do so. I don't remember the last time I saw a speeding trap with a Seattle cop anywhere. Because if they pulled you over, you just identify as homeless anyway. Give me a break. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. So 10 miles an hour, that's their new thing? Well, on the lighter side of the news, if you are stuck in traffic today, it's probably because of this. This is at 6th Northwest and Northwest 47th Street on Seattle City Light property. A male who is not an employee has climbed a tree and is tearing off limbs, which are falling into the street below. It appears he also brought a rope with him. I heard this. I immediately went, yes! Man in Tree Part 2. Do you remember back in 2016, the guy who climbed that tree outside of Macy's? He's throwing pine cones down at people, just throwing all the pine cones and throwing all the tree branches down at people. This sounds like that all over again. Do you remember how they finally got him down? It was Phoenix Jones. our very own local vigilante who offered the guy a sandwich to come down out of the tree. And that's how they got man in tree out of the tree. Man, this thing was wall-to-wall news coverage here in Seattle for a day. Reminded me just how small our lovely town is sometimes. Yes, those are the stories I kind of wish we could go back to. But, yeah, then I realized, no, homeless guy, mental health problems. No, wait a minute. We're still in the middle of that. But, yes, apparently a Man in Tree Part 2 is taking place right now on 6 Northwest and Northwest 47th Street on Seattle City Light property. So if you're heading that direction and there's some delays, just know why that is. When we come back, my friends, we'll go to the phone lines and also tell you what Donald Trump's Golden Dome is. Is that what the new airplane's going to have on the Flying Palace? No, my friends. This thing's better than Reagan's Star Wars. We'll tell you what it is when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45 today, we're giving away tickets to The Who at Climate Pledge Arena. We're also giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and so much more. Yeah, another reason. Always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, but always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's going on, man?
Hey, nothing much. You touched on something earlier in this last segment regarding what's going on and why Ferguson signed this into law. Basically, the point you hit on, and I think I was going to hit on it myself and reiterate this, that what's about to happen is that you're going to start seeing Sound Transit do more disruptions on Link Light Rail by doing single tracking, closing stations, and stuff like this. And you're going to start seeing people pull out their prepaid, their postpaid, any cell phone they've got. And guess what's going to end up happening? People are going to start doing Uber, Lyft, and they're going to keep doing this until Sound Transit cleans up their act.
Well, I don't think they're going to be doing Uber and Lyft because Uber and Lyft numbers are down since Seattle started taxing it so much. So a lot of people are not actually doing that. In fact, they're making less money than they were before thanks to the Seattle City Council taxing Uber and Lyft drivers. But I think you're right, is that a lot more people are going to be on the roads, and a lot of people are going to say, why would I want to risk it on Sound Transit with all the insane stories I hear about it all the time? Are they actually going to clean up their act? Now, I know they've had steps in the right direction, but they ain't there yet. Leonard, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from our friend Transit Joe, who I know is going to want to say something about transit. What's up, Joe?
What's up is I took that rant you made that was somewhat respectfully, sir, inaccurate about the light rail, which I just rode yesterday. There were 2 cops on board the whole time. Unlike with TriMet in Portland, which I was on all weekend, it made me want to get on my knees and say, "Thank God I'm on Sound Transit again." Because TriMet is so insecure in Portland, and they want to come up here.
I'll tell you one thing though, Joe. You know what's interesting is I was looking at Sound Transit's numbers the other day. You know they still haven't rebounded from the pandemic. They're still low. So the question is, and let me ask you this: you're a transit guy, right? Did we have to spend all that money on the train, or couldn't we have done the same thing with buses?
Well, we need the trains for along I-5. We do need the spine, and we need it now. We need to stop this ridiculous.
But why, if the numbers aren't going up, Joe? Why do we need the numbers? You have less people commuting now.
Well, we need to, make sure everyone can get there on time and reliably.
Right. But what about the bus? We could have done all this with buses for significantly cheaper.
No. Buses get stuck in traffic, so we need the sexy light rail.
Why?
Now.
No, because I know places like California, for example. They have high-speed bus lines, designated streets for just buses. I'm not talking about this mess they made in Seattle.
Go ahead.
And we could have done something like that, but no, instead we did the choo-choo trains.
They're not choo-choo. They're more electric.
Electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie. Yeah, look, here's my problem, Joe. Look, you and I are always going to disagree on this, even though you know that I like transit in theory. I just think it's being run by fools here. And look, you've been in my car, Joe. Do you think that I would give up my car to go on transit?
Yes, if you could work on the transit because it was safe. And that's the case with Sound Transit.
You've been in my car. You've seen my car, Joe. You know I'm not going on getting out of that thing to go on transit. But I appreciate the conversation, my friend. Appreciate the kind words. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Switching gears to the national conversation. What is a golden dome that Donald Trump is talking about? I had to break this down for some people in the newsroom because they think this is just some outrageous Donald Trump plan. Let's be realistic about this for a second. Is that our enemies have missiles and want to kill us. Now, Donald Trump is not the first person to propose some kind of missile defense shield. If you remember the movie War Games and all that, you had Ronald Reagan in the 1980s talking about Star Wars, some kind of satellite system or laser system that could shoot down missiles. Now, the problem was back then in the 1980s, 40 years ago, the technology wasn't there yet. But what happened was the Soviets thought it was real, and they started building and arming and building and arming, and it actually bankrupted them. Best bluff in history. Well, now it might actually be real. And for those of you who don't think that missiles coming at the United States is a real thing, I will remind you about the Cold War. But I'll remind you of something else. The people who are firing missiles at Israel right now are the same ones who chant death to America. Should we not have this kind of safety and security? So the Iron Dome system, a lot of people get wrong what the Iron Dome system is because the Golden Dome is based on the Iron Dome. But you know, Donald Trump, everything has to be gold. So what is the Iron Dome system? The Iron Dome system was originally designed for mortar rockets being fired at Israel. And what these interceptors do, it's like the Patriots and the Scuds, if you remember from the Gulf War. The Iron Dome sends up these mini rockets, and they take out these mortars that are being fired at Israel. So then Israel starts working on the next layer, the next upgrade to the Iron Dome, which is a laser system on drones with lasers, kamikaze drones that can take out more complicated missiles. Well, now what they're talking about is satellites that can shoot down the missiles. And all of you questioned what Space Force was for. Let's not forget that Iran has fired hundreds, if not thousands, of ballistic missiles at Israel. Real intercontinental ballistic missiles. They don't have nuclear tips on them because so far they haven't gotten those weapons yet. But don't you think we should have something to protect us from North Korea, who has nuclear weapons, from China, from Russia? Shouldn't we have this? All of you who are for nuclear disarmament, hey, guess what? Actually make sure there's no nuclear missiles. A massive defense shield. And you know what? It's not impractical. What I took away from this is there's finally a Jewish space laser. Yes, a lot of this stuff is developed in Israel from their technology because they have to deal with this stuff all the time. What Donald Trump is talking about doing is putting it over the entire U.S. And a lot of people go, this is insane. This is a pipe dream. It makes a lot of sense if we're serious about national defense. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Rob in Leavenworth. Rob, what's up, man?
Not only is Israel, ahead of their times, ahead of the development from, electronics, cell phones, medical, compared to the United States, but they don't have the FDA to worry about. But that's not why I'm calling. I just mentioned that because you were talking about, you had just mentioned Israel, and it seems like they're, ahead of everybody, especially the United States in a lot of areas. So I used to work in Seattle as a contractor for many years, probably 25 years commuting, and this was through the mid-late 90s and into the 2000s and beyond when the whole sound transit thing, was starting to hit, the airwaves, and they were talking about the cost overruns, and it's like, this is like crazy. I used to listen to Dave Ross on the FM channel in the mornings on the way in, commuting from Mount Vernon. And he had a guest on there, retired, God, I don't know, man, the guy was, I don't know, I can't remember what he did, but
well, what do you say? What do you say there, Rob?
Well, he said that the existing pathways for the rail system were already in place. They didn't have to build all the new infrastructure as far as, eminent domain to take over the properties and all that for the rail system. I'm trying to remember what that old...
well, yeah, they had it before the light rail was running under Seattle. You had buses running under Seattle. It was all there.
Well, they made not just under Seattle, but above ground too.
Right. And they had a few.
Have you been in Seattle?
They had a few places where also, they had to drill some holes in a few places, but at the same time, there were other ways they could have done this with the buses and not have to spend the money they spend now. And especially if they want us all driving electric cars up until Elon Musk got involved in politics. If they want us all doing that, these cars all have auto drive systems. So if the idea is you just want to sit in your vehicle and work, I saw that Minority Report movie. We're not that far away from it. And with the amount of sensors on my Jeep that I have from my friends over at Renton Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, the amount of sensors that sucker has, we're not too far away from that thing just taking me wherever I want to go. Rob, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, there are some things that, even as ticked off as I am about what happened with Joe Biden, our friends on the right have some really kooky theories. I'm all for a good conspiracy theory, but some of these are nuts. We'll tell you what they are when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I will preface this segment by saying I think Joe Biden and the entire Democrat Party and the entire mainstream media are all liars for covering up his health issues, for covering up his cognitive issues, and then pretending that anybody who said anything about it was a conspiracy theorist. We now found out today that Joe Biden's last PSA exam, that's the one that checks for prostate cancer, was in 2014. Obama had him. Trump had him. Joe Biden wasn't getting them. Was that because they knew what the results would be? Or was that because he goes, screw it, I don't need it? Do you know the amount of exams they do to the president of the United States to make sure the most important person in the world is at peak physical capacity for them? Yeah, something was screwy here, and it may have dated back to 2014. That being said, this thing that conservative land, MAGA land, was talking about yesterday, I thought was bonkers crazy. This one here, there was this big push to have Joe Biden meet his granddaughter, Navy Roberts. Who's Navy Roberts? That's the out-of-wedlock kid that Hunter Biden had with London Roberts. You know, the mom who went after the Biden family and said, acknowledge this is your grandchild. And they said, no, you can't cash in on the Biden last name, but everybody else can. That illegitimate child, still Joe Biden's granddaughter. So there's this big push. Oh, he's got to meet his granddaughter. He doesn't have much time left. Will he meet his granddaughter? Guys, the dude doesn't know he's not a vegetable at this point. And you think he's going to walk up to that kid, sniff their hair, stare at her blankly. If he doesn't know who George Clooney is anymore, he's not going to understand who this girl is. This is nonsense. And you're distracting from the real issue. Look, should he have met his granddaughter? Absolutely. Should they have done the right thing? Absolutely. Is Hunter Biden scum of the earth? Absolutely. But at the same time, this big push, he needs to meet Navy Biden. No. Hunter Biden should do the right thing. There's that. This kid should get a piece of the taxpayer-funded fortune. Yeah, there's that. But at the same time, this big push here, stop with the clicks, guys. Just stop with it. I think this is kind of a little bit insanity that I saw on social media. Here's another one I saw. So there's been a settlement with the Department of Justice and Ashley Babbitt's family. So the Trump administration is set to pay out nearly $5 million to settle a lawsuit brought by the family of Ashley Babbitt. Now, here's the thing, and I know I'm about to get the angry phone calls. So here we go. I'm giving you the phone number right up front, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. I went back and watched the tape with Mike today. We went back and watched it. So here's the sequence of events. You have a barricaded door against the rioters at the Capitol. They are breaking in a glass door. There is an agent standing there pointing a gun at the crowd because these rioters are trying to break into the building. Ashley Babbitt is climbing over the barricade through the door when she gets shot. That is what the video shows. You think this person deserves $5 million? I don't think the people who've rioted in Seattle deserve any settlement. Why do you think Ashley Babbitt deserves that? Why has she become a hero for the right? Look, the grandma who had cancer, who was led into the building, who was then arrested and sent to prison because she thought she was on a walking tour of the building? I like her. I like that girl. I like that woman. I shouldn't call her a girl. I like that lady, right? Because, yeah, she was wrongfully prosecuted. But here's my question for all of you who think Ashley Babbitt's a hero. What'd you want the agent to do? Hand-to-hand combat? Just punch her? Punch the woman. That's what you wanted? Or did you want him to just let her go? Just let her go. Multiple things were happening on January 6th. There were the people who were led in the back, who were just wandering around, minding their own business, not knowing what they were doing were illegal. There were people standing out front, not knowing what they were doing was illegal. I was standing where some of those people were just the last time I was in D.C. I wouldn't have known it was a problem. And then there were the people who were actually violent, the people who were assaulting police officers. Ashley Babbitt does not deserve a $5 million settlement. Her family does not deserve a $5 million settlement. And she does not deserve to be a folk hero. If you disagree with me, give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. I see the phone lines lighting up already. But yeah, that's the thing. This really upsets me because when you do that, you have to say, if you want to be morally consistent, if you want to be ethically consistent, you have to say that the rioters from Seattle, from the autonomous zone, get the same kind of settlement. Do you really believe that? Do you believe they should get that settlement? Because I don't. I don't believe that people like Ian Golosh, that teacher at Seattle Public Schools, who got a settlement from the city, should get it. Absolutely not. In no way, shape, or form. So let me know what you think. 206-421-5757. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Got a quick minute for Don in Lakewood. Don, what's going on?
Yeah, hey, I saw a couple of videos of that whole incident. First of all, the video I saw a couple months ago where Ashley Babbitt had slapped the face of a demonstrator who broke the window. And then another demonstrator tried to climb through it. He fell and got hurt, so she did some first aid on him. And then she was looking at a far wall as she climbed through, and I don't think she was looking at the guy who shot her.
Whatever the case may be, do you think it's a good idea, Don, to be climbing through the window of a thing that's barricaded that you're trying to break into?
Well, it depends how bad that person should have got hurt was hurt. She might be looking at a first aid kit for all we know.
Yeah, but that's an assumption. I'm looking at the video, Don, but I do appreciate the call, appreciate the perspective.
I saw that video too.
Yeah.
And I just think that
I don't see no first aid kit in that video, but I got to run, Don. You guys want to call and argue with me over this? 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. Bob Ferguson is not only taking away your parental rights, but also spiking your taxes. That's right. You could be paying up to $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a year more per family. Thanks to Bob Ferguson. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, could what ICE is doing in California actually work here in Washington? But before we get to any of that, earlier today, Governor Bob Ferguson gutted the parental rights here in Washington, undoing an initiative that over 450,000 of you signed through Let's Go Washington. And it's insane that they claim that we are threats to democracy when literally they are undoing the will of the people of Washington. Joining us now to discuss the man behind Let's Go Washington, the one and only Brian Haywood. Thank you so much for being with us today, sir.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure.
So what's the plan?
We're the lonely warriors out here.
That's exactly right. It does feel like that sometimes, but I know there's at least 454,000 people that agree with us. So what's the plan for this time? What are we going to do now?
Well, for this one, we've got two options, and we're working on which one we're going to go with. We can do an initiative. We're going to fight back. So let's start there. I think we have to punch back. The Senate voted unanimously to implement our initiative. The House was almost unanimous. And then, dark of night, they change everything and give us this terrible bill. We have to hit back. First thing we can do is we can do an initiative either to the people, which has to be collected by July, and that's a tight schedule, or we can do it to the legislature again. And we've got both versions ready. So we're kind of seeing which one we should go with. We'll decide that here in the next little while and let people know. The other is there's a possibility of a lawsuit. This is a more expensive route, but 1296 got two other bills log rolled onto it. So it clearly violates the single subject law. And I think it's, of course, it's one rule for you and a different rule for me kind of thinking here, but there's also a potential legal challenge that we could look at.
Let me explain this a little bit clearer for our audience. So the Washington State Supreme Court loves doing this thing where when an initiative gets through the people and then it goes to the court, which is a really dumb system, by the way, they love saying there's this single subject law where it has to be about one subject. And even though $30 car tabs was one subject, even though parental rights is one subject, even though all this stuff, not banning natural gas was one subject, they love to say, oh, no, there's multiple subjects on here. So throwing it back at them would be really entertaining. I mean, I think that would be the most entertaining option, but don't you think something, for example, like collecting 1 million signatures, 2 million signatures, maybe I'm overly ambitious, but wouldn't that say, yeah, you really messed with the wrong people?
That's right. It would. The easier route is to do with the initiative. And I have people that say, well, we've been down this road before. We still don't have $30 car tabs. Why in the world should we get involved in initiative again? And my response to them is, you come out to my ranch. Every spring, the grass starts growing really fast and really high, and I go out and I cut it and I make it into hay, and then it grows back, and I have to go cut it again. But the more I cut it, the less weeds I've got in it and the more green it is. And I think in this state where we've had one-party rule for nearly 40 years, we have to keep cutting the grass. We have to keep going back at them. And they're the ones that look dirty by doing backroom deals and late-at-night deals and thwarting what people voted for. And I believe that they're going to have to pay a price for it.
Yeah, I completely agree. We're talking with Brian Haywood, the man behind Let's Go Washington. And the question I have is this time, what happened at the ballot box in November was the Democrats' message was so powerful, not because it was good, but because they had a lot of money behind it. How do you break through that this time where, for example, money, people just assumed you were paying for this whole thing, and you were, and they assumed, oh, you've got more money than Scrooge McDuck, so they just assume that you have tons of money to throw at them, but, you got all these gajillionaires who are throwing all this money back at you. We need to be on TV. We need to be all over the place. Just posting on social media ain't going to do it.
So, yeah, that's true. There was $50 million that was thrown back against our $5 million when it came to the campaign. And I think I could beat them at a 4-to-1 ratio, but a 10-to-1, that's hard. So certainly that's there. the big difference on this initiative, the reason that the legislature passed it last year instead of sending it to the ballot, was that there were no financial interests on this issue. There was no one that was like, oh, hey, we're going to throw a lot of money against it. And I think that'll make a difference even this time. The things we'll do. So one is that. Secondly, this one also won't need one of those confusing financial statements that they've now started putting on initiatives when they have a financial impact.
Gotcha.
Repealing 1296, right, which is getting rid of the terrible things that they did to the Parents' Bill of Rights. Just repealing it, there's no financial impact, and therefore there shouldn't be anything on the ballot that says, "Hey, this will, defund small baby rabbits from having their mother's milk." Right?
Well, let me throw another idea out at you. Just because, of course, I get to decide this stuff, right? So let me just throw another idea out at you. Why not hit them with the school choice initiative at the same time? Where you say, hey, parents, if you had enough of what's going on in the public schools, now's the chance for school choice. They'll freak out.
That is absolutely something that we're interested in doing. I've done a lot of research on it, and I don't know that we're ready as a state to do it yet. But that's in my toolbox. They should fully expect that this is going to come at them in the future. There's a couple of challenges. The homeschoolers are afraid of school choice because if they take the money, then suddenly the state says, oh, now we need to come into your home and inspect, right? And so we need to protect against that. And then on the national level, there's like 35 states that have actually done school choice. But they've all been done in the legislature, not by initiative. And the places where it's been done by initiative haven't been entirely successful. So I want to go in this ready to fire all the cannons. And we didn't have the time this year to get it ready, but we will in the future. That they can watch for that. It's coming.
So, Brian, just before we let you go, and this is all good news and this is all good things and gives a lot of people here hope, I put out a challenge to my audience before you came on air. I did this at the opening of my show where I said, so we got 454,000 signatures last time for the parental rights. I want 1 million this time. How do we do it? Because I'm willing to help, but how do we do that?
We have to have involvement. We've got a list of everybody that signed last time. There's a couple things. Once we announce this, right, people can come onto our website and they can ask us for initiative sheets, and we'll send them to them. We'll mail them out to them. We need people to take a sheet, fill it out, get the 20 signatures, send it back, go get another 20 signatures. And it's that viral nature that could allow us to do 1 million.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we have to do. We have to make sure that they are worried about what we're going to do, and we stop worrying about what the Democrats are going to do, especially when they start messing with our kids. Brian Haywood, thank you so hard for fighting so hard on behalf of all of us here in Washington. Thank you for everything Let's Go Washington does. You give us a ray of sunshine on a dark day like this. Really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate everything you do.
Oh, thanks so much. Very kind of you to say. Appreciate you being with us today. You guys want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. As Brian and I were just talking, it looks like Bob Ferguson just signed the massive budget. Now, the budget, apparently he did some line item vetoes. We don't know what they are yet. But this budget, $78 billion. The Democrats knew there was never a spending deficit, there was never a budget gap or budget deficit. It was a spending, an out-of-control spending problem. That's what it was the whole time. Now, the Republicans have actually put up the absolute insanity the Democrats have in here. $1.6 billion property tax increases through higher local levies and a return to inequitable funding like McCleary 2.0 through House Bill 2049. $2.6 billion sales tax increase that will make food, health care, prescription drugs, and housing more expensive. $5.6 billion expanded on consumers via higher business and occupation tax. So what that means is you think the businesses are just going to eat that? They're going to roll it over onto you. $637 million expanded income tax on capital gains and death tax. $385 million new taxes on storage units and a whole lot more. Don't forget the Tesla tax, so they're going to tax their own voters, $281 million. Plus, don't forget, they're hitting you every way they can. 50% increase in discovery passes, 38% increase in hunting and fishing licenses, 50% increase in liquor licenses. They're literally taxing everything they possibly can because of their out-of-control spending. Whatever cuts Turd Ferguson does, and yes, all day today he's going to be Turd Ferguson. So whatever cuts he's doing, they're minuscule. They're nothing. You know what they are? So he can say, well, you know, we all have to dig deep and we all have to work really, really hard. We're not the ones who made this mess. You've been in office for decades. You guys made this mess. You know what this is like? Oh, I'm in debt. Hey, you, give me your money. In fact, here's a gun. I'm pulling it out and pointing at you. Give me your money, and I'm going to go pay off my debt. That's what this is. They're out of control spending. We've gone through this with Doge Washington, exposing it's not just their out-of-control spending on stupid things like laser hair removal for trans inmates or self-service stations for single guys or whatever other mess they're paying, or hockey lessons for illegal immigrants or any of this other insanity. Do you know what it is also? Kickbacks. So you've got Democrats who are on boards or employees of nonprofits or companies that want some of these kickbacks, and then they go and lobby for them and get them for the companies they're on. This is what they are doing, and they expect you to pay the bills for all of this. Do you know how bad this could be for you? Let me give you a little math here. If all this goes through, forget the line item vetoes. Let's assume that's minuscule. The fiscal impact this could have on a family of 4, according to analysis by Washington Policy Center and many other groups, and don't forget, they're the ones who were right about how much the gas tax was going to cost. This could range anywhere from $2,000 a year per family extra to $5,000 a year extra. When you factor in how much you're going to get hit by the local taxes, by the sales taxes, by the gas taxes, by every single tax you can imagine, that's what's going to happen. The Democrats have a spending problem and just duped everybody by saying we have a budget crisis. Well, who caused the budget crisis? It wasn't me. I don't get to vote for this. We went from having a budget surplus to a budget gap because of their out-of-control spending on stupidity. And now we have to pay for it? You guys paid for it? For people who claim they hate bailouts for big banks and things like that, they sure like bailouts from the taxpayers. What do they think we are, ATMs? What is the thing that gets you to leave Washington? When do you go enough is enough? Is it the parental rights? Is it coming after your Second Amendment rights? Is it the huge taxes you're about to get hit with? Why would anybody start a business here? Aside from the taxes, now your employees can unionize against you, go on strike, and the state will pay them to strike through the unemployment fund with your taxes. Yeah, Turd Ferguson signed that yesterday. So you know what that's like? That's like when you guys have one rental property and King County or other municipalities have a legal fund to pay for the squatter who hasn't paid you rent in a year, 2 years, 3 years while living in the property because they made it so you can't pay rent. Why would anybody want to do business? Why would anybody want to be a landlord here? Why would anybody want to stay in this state? Why would you want to do it? I like fighting for this place. But for some of you, you may have hit your breaking point. I want to know if you've hit your breaking point or what your breaking point is. You give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. They want your money. They want your kids. They want your gun. They want your car. There's literally nothing they don't want. The Democrats want everything you have. Government doesn't produce anything, doesn't create anything. All it does is take. The Democrats in Washington state have flushed down the toilet what once was a beautiful state. Oh, and by the way, they can't even keep it beautiful, even though they say they're all about stopping climate change. Their efforts have just taxed the you-know-what out of you and accomplished absolutely nothing. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Gary in Bremerton. Gary, what's going on?
How you doing, Ari?
Oh, I'm a little strung up today, my friend. I'll tell you that. What's going on?
But you used half of my steam. But as far as the schools go,